talking all that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. We have a very esteemed guest in the building today. Someone whose name you've heard mentioned dozens upon dozens of times. Perhaps even our EP has yelled at us for telling stories involving this man for time to time. The one and only Skippy is in the building.
That's right. And hey, it's Scott to all of you out there.
That's right.
That's right.
You do not know him well enough to call him Skippy.
That's right.
But he is Skippy.
There are two people in this room
Yeah.
allowed to call me Skimpy.
Yeah.
That's right.
Everybody else, it's Scott to you.
You got to earn that, right?
My first question is, what the fuck have you guys been saying about me on this
man.
podcast?
Well,
All good things, I promise.
It's less about what we were saying about you, and it's the fact that you were just this figurative character that existed, and that annoyed some people because they didn't have a face to the name, but now they do.
Right.
Scott, Skimpy.
It's Skimpy. I do exist.
We talk a lot about, the days of yore, the coming up, learning the game of poker, and you were around for all of that. So
you see, Scott. It's very weird for me to call you Scott, by the way.
Yeah, you're allowed. You have the Skimpy pass.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to establish the duality here. This is a poker podcast, but in its heart, it's a Pittsburgh podcast masked as a poker podcast.
As you can tell from my shot.
Yeah. So this is really just about our inner Yinzer kind of being able to make it to the airwaves 5 days a week, really bleed that black and gold. And you happen to be a part of that from our tiny little steel mill town. You're the one that I can credit to teaching me No Limit Hold'em. Now, granted, you didn't know the fucking rules. And we actually
got pretty close.
I'm sorry. The only reason why you know the rules is because I taught them to you.
Well,
Yeah.
Don't tell me I did not know the rules. You did not know the rules.
did we?
He knew them better than both of
I'd
us.
seen
Okay,
rounders.
yes, that's true.
And I sat you guys down, and I explained to you how No Limit Hold'em works.
Okay.
Right.
Now, in that
You're each
explanation,
gonna get 2 cards. Go ahead.
did we or did we not just immediately go to a flop?
Well, of course we immediately went to a flop. We were just learning how to play.
We didn't know what blinds were. We
Yeah.
were just ante. Everyone get 2 cards, and we just put the flop
To
out.
be
We
fair,
all checked in the dark immediately.
So-
Because how ridiculous is it to start betting with just 2 cards?
No, you don't know what you
Who
have.
would do that?
Yeah, correct.
Wait a minute. From the one story that I know, you folded a boat to him.
he fucked me.
Oh, that was the
He's a
best.
scumbag. You're a scumbag. You're a bad guy.
No, he's not.
He is a bad guy.
He's a very fair human being, is who he is.
He is.
Are you talking about when we left?
Yeah, so I think we've told the story before, but just to catch people up. So yeah, we like I said, we didn't play this game a lot. We didn't know a lot of the rules. We weren't familiar with the game. Obviously, we're just starting to play it. And it was always whatever you said you had,
It was declare.
it was declare,
Right. Yeah.
kind of something like that. Or if the hand was, just what you thought you had, you just went.
That sounds so fucking unreasonable in hindsight, by the way.
It is.
I thought I had a magical unicorn, so I guess I win.
Right. Well, I think we all thought that you had lost the hand.
Skimpy didn't.
Right? I had I
That
don't know.
is
There was
bullshit. That is untrue.
Well, what happened was the board was there was 2 aces on the board, and I think I had something like ace jack, and it was like ace 7 8 deuce or something, and Berkey had pocket 7s.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Well,
it was
something
not
like that.
you. It was him. And he had pocket 7s.
It was against me.
It was not. It was against him?
It was against him because
I'm-
we left
I'm almost
afterwards.
yes, we
went to Eaton Park
And
or
we
whatever,
realized-
and then we realized we came
Right.
back.
We went and got
woke you up.
food, and while we were eating, we realized what happened as you did after the fact, and then we literally came back to your house to wake you up to tell you about it because we were
You're
so
sitting here
excited.
denigrating.
So the hand was correct. I was positive it was against him.
No,
But
yeah.
I flopped an underboat, or I turned an underboat.
Yeah.
And I lost to a set of aces in my head.
Right. We were like, oh, I have trip aces and he has trip sevens. I win. Like, nope, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So you're a bad guy.
So first off, you're going on this podcast saying how I fucked you.
Right. Well, now I take it back. Brian's a bad guy. Brian's a real bad guy.
No. To be fair, you were mean to him when you were younger.
That's true. And now I do think that this was revenge.
Not only that, if the roles were reversed, the exact same outcome would have happened.
100%.
Yes. So
except
I'm not gonna take a negative free roll. I knew what a negative free roll was back then.
The difference is it would not have taken me 4 hours to go to dinner with the guys to come back and dance on your grave. It would have taken exactly one hand.
Well, no,
I mean, obviously, in hindsight, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. But the thing is, I think if I would have had the trip aces, I would have known what the fuck was going on.
Wasn't this like the last hand of the night?
No, this was so painful.
I thought it was like the last hand because we always played till someone had it all.
No, the way the story played out was it was the end of summer, our senior year, and we decided to do a quote unquote big buy-in. Now, if this didn't fucking lay the landscape for my career,
yes.
I don't know what could have. I've been mowing grass for fucking years to collect. Well, I've also been, raking these guys over the coals.
I was a winner
Saturday
in that game.
after Saturday.
I was the big winner.
I had
but
a
I was
score sheet. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the sign-in thing?
Oh yeah.
In my room, I just had a giant poster board,
With the same-
and on it, I would have them come and sign their name when they came to play, and then beside it, I would have my running tally of what I was winning in the game.
Like what we would do is we would literally like play a cash game, but like tournament style. Like we just play till somebody had all the money or they
it was
quit.
The polite thing to do.
Right, exactly. And like there would be like, 6 or 7 of us to start. And then like by the end, it was us 3 every single time.
That part's true. Poor John, Randy, and anybody else who happened.
They would stop by every now and again.
Did not stand a fucking chance.
And then Skippy would always get third.
There's
and
so
then
many,
it would be me and you.
There are so many
Most of
things.
the time.
There are so many things that are frustrating. So we play this big buy-in at the end of the summer. It's $50 each, and we play quarter stakes. So pennies are worth a quarter. So it's like 200 big blinds, but it doesn't matter because we just play antes. So the game is obviously bigger, and we played a lot of replace the pot games like Guts and 357. That was one of your favorites, of course. I hated replace the pot games, and I didn't understand why. But I do now. I was very risk averse. In spite of the fact that I was the slam the penny jar on the table guy, I was terrified to fucking lose. And replace the pot games felt more like gambling to me because you had to declare early in them if you were going to be into the end. It's like, how can you know?
Yeah.
How can you know about the future?
I got to be sure before I stick all my money in.
Right. So, of course, if this night didn't set the stage for my entire poker career, I don't know what could have. So I bought in for $50, as did everybody else. And the plan was, it was a lot of money to us. So if you lost $50, that was probably going to be it. And sure as shit,
it was over.
Sure as shit, this hand happens maybe 2 hours in. I'm out.
That's right.
I'm just broke.
Yeah.
And I walk away and I start sulking. And then out of nowhere, from the top rope, slam down another 50. No way they're getting me tonight, boys. I'm going to find a way. No, I was also the next one out again. They divvied up my 100. They went to fucking early breakfast.
Oh, it was good breakfast too.
And then they come back.
Tasted so good.
This is the town we grew up in. We didn't lock our doors. We kept our keys in the car. It's 4:00 in the morning. I'm sleeping. I'm not even sleeping. I'm laying in bed.
Sulking.
Like half asleep, but also half miserable because I know what happened. I'm just beside myself that I lost all my money in a spot where I actually had the best hand. And they just all barged through my house.
Not all, just Skippy and I.
I feel like John was with you, but okay.
He might have been.
Plausible.
John would definitely like to be there for that.
Storm up the steps.
I can just hear that just laugh right now. Just so happy.
Storm up the steps, past my killer dog, which bit Muzz at least a dozen times. Run in my room, and I'm already just sitting up in bed, and I go, I know.
Yeah, he did.
You honestly ruined it for us because we were so excited to let you know. It's just
he did ruin it for us. We just wanted to tell him.
I went to college poor thanks to you two. So
you did not listen. It is funny because you were obviously the big winner in that game throughout, the couple years that we were playing in high school, and then we decided to just have a really big game, and you just got crushed. It was just like, we can't believe this is happening. Like Berkey is always was the best, and it was just like finally play big. Biggest we ever played, and he just gets torched.
It was
We were all so happy.
It was a real lesson in variance that I did not take to heart and didn't learn at all.
No.
I literally
Still haven't,
for sure. I was very much of the impression that I was under control of everything back then, and it only dovetailed into college where it was like, I'm going to put $5 on party poker, and I'm going to play these sit and goes, and then you couldn't believe that you didn't just win every fucking sit and go. I remember this will be the last I remember story, but the night before spring training, we would always go to Florida for spring training, and at this point, I think it was my junior year. So, it was my junior year. So I think it was like 2003. Party poker had just become like really fucking big moneymaker. Hadn't happened yet, but you know the online wave was starting to catch, and I had ran $5 on my party poker account up to like 500, just like crushing it, right? So we have to leave at 5:30 in the morning to drive to Florida from Erie, PA, which is like a 28-hour drive. And I know the way that these drives work, like we're all asleep for the first 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever, but then we're going to play cards for most of the way thereafter. So like a genius, I'm like, well, I'll just stay up all night because I know everybody's going to sleep the first quarter of the bus ride and I want to sleep too. What am I going to do? I'm going to play on party. I get on the fucking bus stuck $500. I'm gambling with meal money by the time we're in North Carolina. Like I have my entire 2-week meal stipend on the table. Like, let's go, boys. I need to get even.
You had one of those like cards that went into the computer so you could like a Verizon card?
No. We played physically on the bus.
Right.
Oh God, no. That we were years before
That's
that.
what I thought. Okay. Yeah.
Years before that happened. No, but I did make a lot of it back on the bus. I wasn't the only one playing with meal money. There were some people going hungry during that Fort Myers trip.
Yep.
That one got out of hand quickly. So, Skippy, welcome.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
Pleasure to be here. Am I like the first Leechburg person you've had on?
I think so, yeah.
First 30-year friendo?
Yeah, it was probably either going to be you or Jace.
Jace would kill on a podcast.
Yes, for sure.
I did one of those VR sandboxes with him recently. He was the best part.
VR sandbox?
Virtual reality sandbox. So basically like 6 people go in virtual reality and we fought pirates.
Really?
And Jace was just getting fucked up the whole time, and it was amazing to watch.
Yeah. He comes in the chat every now and again.
He does pop in the chat. We kicked around the idea of maybe having him on like every once in a while, have him zoom in and just, talk his shit.
Just get like a Pittsburgh dad version of like, how's your day?
Absolutely.
I miss those days. He used to call me every day on his drive home from work, but now he works remotely. Mm-hmm. This is what COVID did. It took away the afternoon phone calls from your high school buddies.
Well, now he's the dad of a teenage girl.
That is true. That's true. Shout out to adoption. Coincidentally, you're our first high school friend to be on here, but somehow Landon has had multiple friends throughout the years come on, mainly because they actually turned out to be successful poker players, unlike yourself.
Sure.
Right.
So
I went a different route.
Yeah, in essence, you failed us.
Correct.
If we could, lay all the cards out on the table.
I set the stage for you guys to be successful. I had done my work.
Right.
Yeah.
You had
You're
to
like, I'll
walk.
teach you the game and now go.
You had to walk so they could run.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. You do still you still dabble in the game a little bit, right?
Yeah,
I
I
at Rivers Casino there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So recently this year, my wife and I started to do some date nights, going down to Rivers Casino, and I still have not gotten better.
Oh, so your date night includes you playing poker and her doing what?
Playing poker.
Oh, she plays too.
I taught her to play.
So you guys play together at the same
and
table.
she's potentially better than me as well. So
the bar's pretty low.
I'm good at the starter stage, and then beyond that. But I lose some money there every now and again.
You win some.
I win some, I lose some.
Yeah.
I end up playing how like they play. Right. So like, which is very similar.
Kind of like monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Which is very similar to like our home games. Like where like, everyone wants to just see the flop.
Right.
So if you like raise pre-flop, like you're the dick.
Yep.
And also everyone folds. Right. So it's like, if you raise pre-flop, like you obviously have aces and then everyone folds. So then you just start limping in every time and then
Yeah.
losing with all your good hands. And then, then I just drink.
We
it.
really should have had the "Tell Me Your Wreck Without Telling Me" segment today, because you're just the
Yes.
embodiment of
Yes.
everything we
recreational
talk
player.
about.
Yeah.
Yes, I am the person that like you guys are making money off. I assume.
Yeah,
the
no, yeah,
recreational
fully.
player that comes out here just to dump money to you guys.
Yeah, not just us.
I'm just currently dumping it to old men at the Rivers Casino.
Hey, got to keep the
Are you going
economy
to do
going.
any gambling while you're here?
Probably.
Okay.
I have not done any yet.
What's your game of choice?
I'll probably play poker. I'll probably see if I can do a cash game. Is it 1-3 here, 1-2? Where am I going to lose my money?
It's either 1-3 or 1-2, depending on where you're at. Most places are like 1-3 now. I think MGM has a.
I'll tell you
I don't
what.
know.
If I'm playing tomorrow, I'll have you come to the Bellagio.
Okay.
They have a 1-2 game there. You'll fit in just fine. You'll get eaten alive, which is great.
Perfect.
But I'll get you a nice comped $100 meal.
Fantastic.
So, at least you'll eat well.
Yeah, I don't get comped at the Rivers. It's tough.
No, yeah. There's not a lot to go around there.
They don't give you much for date night
Right.
every now and again down there.
Understood. You're a bit of an innovator.
Yep.
I complained that you didn't know the full rules to Texas Hold'em at the time, but have you heard of a bomb pot before? Probably not. They don't
go
play these at
on.
Rivers for sure. Bomb pots have swept through the No Limit Hold'em
They're
community.
very, very popular.
Incredibly
throughout the-
popular. You know what they are?
I assume just go all in immediately.
No. Everybody antes, and then you just see a flop.
Oh,
Whole table.
Just like we started.
Just like we
that
used to
sounds
do.
like a friendly game of poker.
Right. Yes.
I have to tell you,
It's not friendly. It's not friendly.
Bloody.
It just becomes huge because, like, now instead of everyone just folding in 2 or 3 people seeing a flop, you have everybody seeing the flop and everybody put money in to start. So the pot's already big and there's all these hands and usually somebody has something and 2 people clash and like the pots get really big. They call them bomb pots.
Yeah.
And so like they don't do them like every hand. It's usually like once a half hour they do it or something.
Like the casino does it, or can someone just like, hey, you guys want to do a bomb pot?
Yeah,
And then everyone
pretty
just
much
goes
like
for
that.
it?
Most games are pretty relaxed when it comes to playing the carnival games, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it might be time for you to Bitcoin's up.
Yeah.
And you listened to me obviously back in 2018 when I said buy. So you're rich.
Yep, absolutely.
Time for you to
I
get your
did-
feet wet
yeah,
in
I
the
did
poker
not
sphere.
paper hand out of Bitcoin
I
at the
wonder
wrong
how
time.
you'd feel about the stand-up game.
Go on.
Okay, so everyone at the table has to stand up.
I don't like it already.
All right. You're like, my damn knees.
Yeah, my knees could never.
Okay, so you have to stand up and you're not allowed to sit down until you win a hand. Okay, and then the last person standing has to pay everybody like a couple big blinds at the table.
I love that.
So that's fun, right? Because
Yeah,
now it promotes action, right? Because you're like, oh my God, we're down to like a couple people left. I need to sit down before somebody else does. So then you're playing very aggressively, and
It's less about the reward and more about the pain.
Right, because
which I
poker
think
is
we
usually
love.
like mentally punishing.
Right.
Right.
Now
It's nice
put
to add a
some
physical element
punishment
to it as well.
So since we're talking about the stand-up game, this is probably a good idea to bring up. When did you like kind of lose focus of Hold'em? Did you like pay attention at all through the moneymaker boom? Like I feel like when Brian and I got pretty heavy into it, you were kind of already not that
like
interested.
college, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember, one of the last times like we played live was when I told you I was joining the Army.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like some random dude's house. I dealt you a straight flush the very first.
This was in Polish
hand.
Hill, wasn't it?
It was some
Oh, might
random,
have been.
it was
Must
some
have been,
random house in
yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And like I showed up, it was like your friends you'd played before, and I like literally the first thing I do is deal Berkey a straight flush, and they're just like assuming I'm sort of like
some
I'm the
mechanic
guy-
or something?
I'm the worm from Rounders.
That actually happened to us. We played in a game in Altoona. It was wild. It was in this big bingo hall, and they were somehow, I mean, this was like 2004. They
Yeah.
had like 8 tables going. And there was this one guy who was a clear mechanic, and we would just counter him because every time it was his deal, we knew he would get aces or kings.
Right.
And so you'd look down and you'd see like kings, and you'd fucking limp, and then just try to flop a set because he would
Right.
only set the deck for pre.
Right.
So then you would just try to like out flop him post. But one day he cooled me off in a set of a set situation, and I just remember wanting to like knock him out. It was weird. It was a lot like Rounders. Okay, so that was probably like 2003-ish, maybe 2004. You kind of like exited stage left around then.
Yeah, you guys, started like actually making poker your career, and I
Right.
I went to the Army.
Oh yeah, that's right. Did you play much when you were in the military?
Not really. I mean,
It's like,
shocking to me.
what happened to your poker career? I went to war. It kind of got in the way
Men
of
used
my
to go to
poker
war.
career.
That's shocking to me. You guys didn't play much.
I mean, we did but it wasn't like we were busy.
Yeah, they're out there looking for weapons of mass destruction, Burke. They didn't.
We're
have time for the
still
Hold'em game.
fucking looking.
Still looking for them.
Okay, so does the name Durr ring a bell to you at all? Tom Dwan.
Oh yes, I know who Tom Dwan.
Okay, so you're familiar.
Yeah, so
with
I
him.
watched. So I still watched it like on TV, like during the TV boom when it was popular.
Okay, so what if anything do you have an opinion of Tom Dwan? Like, does he resonate in your mind at all? Is like one of the names, the heroes, anything along those lines?
I don't know. I think he was just always considered like a very cerebral, intelligent.
Yeah, he was a young
poker
gun
player. I think
of
that's
sorts.
how he was presented.
What's your opinion, Landon? Of like how does your generation see a Durr type figure?
Very highly regarded, just like everyone else from, call it not back then, but the stars then or the stars now, like the Dean Eggs, Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey. We ought to see them as like the goats if you aren't in the community anymore. Like when I played college poker, like dorm room nonsense, we'd all just like watch high stakes poker.
Did that ever like shift? Like
to who is the issue, right?
Well, what I'm saying is like, did you ever like lose that sense of wonder for Tom Dwan? Like, or does he still
Only
fall into like
when-
the Galfond jungle? You know what I mean? That second wave.
Only when I met my heroes.
You actually met Tom?
Yeah, well, like I played in the WPT game.
Oh,
with him.
that's right. You did.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
So like once that happened, it's like, oh, okay.
Okay.
It,
So
it
interesting.
loses the allure.
It was kind of like those guys to you is kind of like the Doyle Brunsons, the Johnny Chans to us.
It's
Yeah,
funny
Jo-
you mentioned Johnny.
like Johnny Chan, like to me,
Johnny was
doesn't-
definitely like, don't meet your hero moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Johnny Chen to me, like is not the same as like a Dean Eggs or a Tom Dwan
Yeah.
type of guy. But that's because high stakes poker was like in syndicate and running all the time, like on GSN. And then when I first got into poker, I would go on trips or whatever and just only watch high stakes poker. So I would watch all the archives of that and like the big game. So he wasn't really on that very much.
Like when we played in high school, like those were the guys. Those were the guys
Like
that
Eric
were like
Seidel
the
was the
gods.
guy.
Yeah, right. Just mainly from like rounders, right?
Yeah,
Watching rounders.
who's
and-
the Jesus guy? What was his name?
Ferguson. That's
Ferguson, yeah.
funny. You don't know. He just doesn't
Who
know.
was the
Doesn't know.
You mean the guy that like started Christianity?
yeah. Like he was something about like dying for
poker
your
and shit, yeah.
sins or something.
He died for the max late regs, that's for sure.
Guab, I'm gonna send you a whatchamacallit, a link. But yeah, okay, so
Candy bar?
No, a link. So along those same lines, I have a follow up with the Durr thing, obviously, with him getting announced as an ACR pro today. But I'm kind of curious to get the temperature of the room. So for you, Lamana, like where did Durr fall in the allure of professionals? Because I think you're probably the only one who hasn't met him of the three of us.
I've met him. I actually worked that WPT
Oh, okay, so you
stream
did
that
meet
he
him.
was on, and I mean I met him like in passing, you know,
6 degrees of separation.
not like I really like actually sat down and ever had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
But no, he was like, you know, I played a lot on Full Tilt coming up, so like I knew like, okay, he's that guy that's on there and just crushing these high stakes, and then you know he played on high stakes poker. You started seeing him on TV, and just like, okay, this guy's super aggressive, like crazy gambler, but really really good, kind of like one of the top young stars.
Okay, so but all of you guys said the same thing or similar things, but that all ended in 2011.
Right. Well,
So-
then he kind of just faded away. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. So like, what's the perception over the last?
I was just
12
like, oh,
years?
he just, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to like what he was doing. I just assumed he was like, you know, in Macau just playing nosebleeds.
Okay, that's partially true. So then along the same lines, what about somebody like Johnny Chan, who obviously during the Rounders era, you know, he was the guy. You know, he was the guy that Mike McD pulled a move on.
It was kind of like it was a slow like decline, like kind of like I was like Johnny Chan is here and I'm way down here.
Yeah.
And as like time moved on, like I felt like it got closer and closer and closer to like I was like maybe I'm a better poker player than Johnny Chan. And it's just like weird to think about, but like maybe that's the case. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, the Johnny one is funny for me because I got to play a fair amount with him, and I just realized very, very quickly. So we went deep in the 2010 main event together, but I didn't have the chance to play with him. And at that time, he was still like, Johnny and Doyle were like the dudes.
Right.
So like him even going deep at that point, it was just like, wow, this is surreal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I got to play a fair amount of cash with him starting, I don't know, like mid to late 2010s, like 2018-ish, somewhere around there. And I just started to realize like he's just a sick nit. So I got to play with him at the end of 2023, actually on Christmas Eve. And I put this tweet up because...
Why are you blowing a spot up like that?
Well, this is like... I mean, I thought this was like really funny watching or getting to like kind of play the scene out in real life. So Johnny literally sits across the table from me. We're playing 100-200. And at this point, like, we know each other pretty well. Like, we're cordial with each other. But, like, I also know he's just a sick fucking nit. And he sits deep. Like, deeper than I think he's comfortable playing for. But not deeper than I'm comfortable. Like, he'll sit, like, 50K playing 1-2. And I have, like, 150 in front of me. And, like, whatever happens. So this hand happens where I open... So I put this tweet up. I go, I'm at the bell. It's late. I see Johnny Chan walk in. He goes and sits the 100-200 section. The whole place fucking stops. So I put the hand history up, and I open King 5 suited under the gun. And I go, Rags. I had nothing. He 3-bets the 3,500 on the button. I 4-bet the 10K.
Oh,
Re-raise? You play right back at him? He calls. Flop is ace deuce 3 rainbow. I bet 2K. He calls. Turns an ace. I check. He bet 6K, and I raised the 20. And this legitimately happens. You can go to I guess I didn't put the video up. I just put the picture up, and that was right after he folded, which was almost certainly an
Pull
ace.
the fucking move on Chan, you son of a bitch.
He literally looked at his checks, looked at me, checked his cards, looked at me again, and fucking mucked
You're
it.
like, oh my god, like this is unbelievable.
I put a move on Chan, you son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
You just wanted to do this for the meme.
So badly, so bad. Like I look at King 5 suited, and he 3-bets me to infinite, and I'm just like, I'm dead, but fuck it.
I mean, you were like Mike McD. You didn't care about the money.
I didn't care about the money.
Just like, I'm gonna outplay this guy in this hand.
Poor Johnny, man. All he did was sit down to like play a
All he
game
did
of
was
cards.
exist, and he got movied.
Yeah, and some guy's trying to fucking meme him for a 100K pot.
Honestly, he I don't know if he did, but he should have made millions of dollars off of that because probably
For sure.
any bidder that like played against him is gonna try to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like call. Just call John every time, and you're just gonna win.
I can't remember if he said he had queens or ace jack, but either way, like he had a really strong hand, and I was dead to basically a gut shot. So I thought that was pretty funny. The reason I bring all this up, Skimpy, to bring you back, to loop you back in.
I have a quick question.
Oh, please.
What is a sick nit?
I was gonna ask. I was like, it's funny because I almost said I was like, I know you know poker, but I don't know how well you know
He
the
actually
lingo.
would be such a great daily edition if I could refrain from tangenting over our childhood.
Right.
He'd be such a great daily edition because he would knock it. Like, you're the guy who goes to the South Point and you just blend in. You're
Right.
with your people,
Yes.
you know? He actually represents a tier below that isn't ready for the jewel yet.
Right.
And he's just like, pardon me. What's a sick nit exactly?
Yeah. So a nit essentially is someone who plays really, really tight and folds a lot. Doesn't play like so. So like you wouldn't think Johnny Chan would be like super tight and risk averse, but like I guess that's how Berkey says he plays.
He's a sick nit.
Sick nit, like
Sick-
not just a
sick
nit,
is-
but like
sick-
sick isn't like
sick is
really nitty.
extra
nitty, yes.
nitty.
Yeah.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
I may ask
Super
for other
nitty.
definitions.
He's
throughout
he
the
instead of
conversation.
playing poker, he's sitting there knitting a sweater.
See, it's funny because I don't. I think we all think that that's what knit means.
I don't know if that's what it
That's
means,
what I
but I've
understood it
heard
to.
people say that before, so I just go with
but
it.
I think like we just like draw a parallel. I think a nit is like a very tiny insect, isn't
That's
it?
kind of what I
It's a
thought too.
gnat.
That's
Well,
a gnat, right? But I think
a gnat is something else. But
So like,
Nits are also tiny insects.
because like
Thank
when
for
you knit,
lice and shit.
when you knit a sweater, it's spelled with a K,
K, right.
But a knit is just
NIT.
NIT,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
For
I
poker.
think we just reduce these tight people down to the smallest little parasites.
That could be true.
You know.
Vulture one, vulture two.
Yeah, exactly. You understand. All right. So bringing this full circle now, I know that was a long walk for a short drink, but Tom Dwan, who was recently the face of Full Tilt Poker, he was the next generation. He was the guy. He was the one that they were all betting on to kind of like be the next wave or the next derivative of Phil Ivey. He's now just signed with ACR Poker, which I'm sure you have no idea who that is, but it's one of the few poker sites that we can play on here in America. So usually this would be monumental fucking news. Like if this had happened 24 months ago, this would be the biggest thing to happen in poker today, for sure. However, in 2024, when everybody's skeletons are falling out of their closet day after day, when every single online site is putting out a fire.
I think it's called spring cleaning, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. when every single online site is putting out fires day over day for cheating, for collusion, for botting, for RTA, and everything else. This story doesn't exactly sit that well with the community. So within the last week, Tom has been aired out by many people for more than 6 figures of debt. And he's just been getting dragged all over poker Twitter for basically owing a lot of money that he seems to have no intention of paying back. And this is off the back end of obviously the Durr Jungle challenge, where Jungle's kind of made it seem like Tom has done a pretty adequate job of trying to pay off the difference in what he owes, as well as paying off the penalty. There was like some sort of penalty throughout the years, but I do recall there being like some sort of space that occurred maybe a year ago or so that I think Josh Aryeh animated. Oh no, maybe I'm confusing this with the Viffer thing. No, it overlaps. It had something to do with both.
Yeah.
Where Jungle was just like very adamant that he hasn't been paid all of his money. And I don't know if that's from Tom or from Viffer or for whatever, but
Give me my money.
Give me my money, goddammit. So yeah, Durr basically is indebted to a lot of people for a lot of money, it seems. And ACR has this bot ring that, if true, is the largest cheating scandal in maybe 18 years for online poker. Estimated $10 million taken out of the player funds pool.
A lot.
By these bots. So to specify for the layperson such as yourself, Skimp, you actually could probably relate to this because, you know, you're a little sharp when it comes to the tech. People program bots utilizing these simulations that we've been able to run to study the game. So they basically convert these sims into automated bots that just make decisions based off of the study tools. And these bots play relatively well, or at least well enough to have a small win rate or a small hourly. And then on top of that, the site is raking money for every pot that's played, right? Well, they give rake back to people who put in a lot of volume. So these bots are now making a lot of money in rake back as well. And, you know, they're not human, so you can just run them indefinitely.
They never get tired. They never make a mistake.
They don't get tired, and they don't. They
just like don't change their strategy.
Yeah, they don't change their strategy.
Mistakes are probably made.
Sure,
yeah.
But like, you know,
I mean, they
you
don't
have to find them and exploit them.
Right, exactly.
Find them, you must become them.
So yeah, so basically we have this site that is pretty much in the news weekly for poor security, and then we have Tom, who has recently been in the news for stiffing people. And they've come together, and they're going to introduce Progressive Squid Game.
Yeah.
They love PSG.
So we told you about the stand-up game. There's another version of it called Progressive Squid Game, which is instead of sitting down when you win a pot, which is basically the way that you avoid a penalty, you can actually accumulate bounties. So every pot that you win, now the last person to sit has to pay off all of the bounties. So say it takes like 35 hands to sit and you're paying like $500 per hand. Well, never mind. That would be ridiculous. Say you're paying $100 per hand. Now you're going to owe $3,500 in bounties. And one person could win like, you know, 8 of them or 9 of them. It really does like up the gamble.
Wow.
It's
that is crazy. Right, because like now sitting is so valuable.
Yeah,
because you just know that like, okay, you're not paying the bounty, and other people are standing and they're trying to do whatever they can to sit, and you just like all the pressure's off of you.
You don't
and you
play
can
this
just try
in
to
Bobby's,
collect
right?
bounties.
No, we've played it a couple times. It's tough.
You don't like it as much?
I love it. The Recs don't like
you
it.
love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite, but the Recs aren't super. It's too complex to explain. I think.
It does not sound to be a fun game to play against robots.
No. Yeah,
That standing game as well would be. The robots would have a distinct advantage.
Yeah,
They would.
So that's obviously the other funny part is that in Tom's video, which I think Guapo can play now. Actually, let's just listen to it, and we can kind of speak on it a little bit. If you have that, Guapo, I didn't mean to throw you on Johnny on the spot.
At the end of the day, I believe in ACR. I believe in Phil, especially, more than, just about any other brands in the industry. There's very few other brands in the industry, especially online operators, that are even close to that, where I think they kind of their heart's in the right place. I happen to be really optimistic on the next few years of poker, but I don't want to bet on the stale stuff, right? I think you kind of got to be, trying some new stuff and doing interesting stuff. And I think a lot of the poker world is missing that in a lot of different verticals. Specifically for online operators, I think outside Asia, Phil's, the only person I would say I really align with on that stuff. I think most of all, the spirit of my deal with ACR is that we have a conversation, and especially between me and Phil, but also other people at ACR. Personally, some of the stuff that's moving the ball forward of trying new stuff and stuff like that in poker, I might be more interested in a slightly different area, but I gotta give props to Phil with what he said of the cage stuff. I do find that kind of hard, right? It might not wake me up as much personally as some, progressive Squid Game variant at really high stakes or whatever, but I think it hits that kind of spirit of what I find interesting and valuable in poker, right? And then I think also there's going to be, me suggesting, a little progressive Squid Game, stuff like this. And then there'll be some kind of more joint stuff that we try out too. And I think some of that stuff will do well. I don't know, but these kind of things of trying out new ideas, trying stuff like a progressive Squid Game, like whatever other new ideas, and being okay, sometimes we're going to do stuff that doesn't work out great. Every now and then we'll have a game that was a little bit of a bust, but sometimes we'll have stuff that, I don't know if we'll make it like old high stakes poker where 12 years later people still come up to me like, yo, what happened in this hand? But that's the idea, is try it out.
I have an idea you can try out. Secure your goddamn site. Get the fucking bots out of there. What insane PR. This is such a tone that, first of all, you can't run progressive Squid Game online, especially on a cheated online site or one that's bot ridden, for a very obvious reason.
Skippy doesn't want to play against the bots.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. Skippy
does not. What if somebody gets stacked? How do they pay?
Well, it's not even just if they. That's obviously a problem, right? But on top of that, you can just leave.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you could run a stand-up game without doing the progressive. That would be viable, because what you would have everybody do is just ante, right? And it would just be put in a side pot somewhere.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure it's not easy, but I'm sure it could be programmed pretty easily, where the money is just held.
It's just
and if somebody
set
quits,
aside, right? Yeah. To sit in this game, you have to.
Exactly.
It's almost like a buy into a tournament.
Exactly. If somebody quits during the stand-up game, obviously they forfeit their amount.
Right.
If somebody goes broke and they don't reload, same thing, yada yada yada. But if you're doing progressive, you just can't do that, because you have no idea
how much. Right.
It's not feasible. So it's a stupid idea. No offense. Look, we all love the progressive Squid Game. It's fucking
game.
Yeah, he's just obsessed. It's we're gonna try some new shit. Have you heard of the progressive Squid Game? We're gonna play the progressive Squid Game. Hey, I talked to Phil the other day, and while he's putting virtual dicks in his mouth, I also threw him the idea of what?
This is the guy.
This is the CEO of the fucking site. Now, Scott, you're a businessman.
Let's get something out of the way first.
I mean, I haven't had just like that.
Our community is such a fucking joke.
Well, so all right, so you led this off with ACR is pretty much the only.
Yeah.
So it's either them or nobody, so they can do whatever the fuck they want, apparently.
Partially true, obviously. People still show up, but it's also just this isn't the fix that you think it's going to be. You know, it's like, look, I get it, man. You like to gamble high and play progressive Squid Game. That's great. If that's the value you're bringing to the site, I think they might have missed on this one.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we obviously are at a time where any moves that online sites make have to be within the vein of ambassador for security's sake, right? We saw GG do it where Jason Kuhn had stepped down. Everything that we understand, the Integrity Council has been dismantled there, but they made Fedor the forward-facing guy for security, and he's not just an ambassador any longer. He literally has the title of integrity ambassador, security, whatever. Like, it's clearly attached to his name and likeness that he will be a part of improving and being a liaison between the community and GG security. ACR has Moneymaker, the face of the boom, the guy who we can all thank for having a career now, but like, let's be honest, isn't exactly sharp in the online streets, as he issued a challenge for anybody who wants to build bots to go on the site and try to beat their security. Like, not exactly a sharp move. And now Durr, who has been, you know, kind of in hiding for 12 years because he's indebted to so many people and he's just like vanished from the poker sphere altogether. The only thing that he's come out of hiding for was like major stream games because his name still drove a lot of traffic to sites. But like, this notion that like, oh, we're going to invent something that's going to reincarnate high stakes poker from days of yore. It's like, that can never happen again. And it's not because the game has gotten stale. It's not necessarily because the personalities suck or there isn't as much funding and resource drive. All of that may be true, but the reason it can never happen again is because of the goddamn internet. There's a stream on every single fucking day. You want to know why high stakes poker was popular?
That's all we had.
And why you can remember every fucking hand that was significant? It's because there was 1 or 2 seasons a year and nothing in between.
Right. We were so excited when like the new season would drop and new episodes, and would just gather around TV when it would air and watch it. Right.
Poker players were there in droves. It was our Rounders version 2. Like, it was the thing that was mandatory for you to watch if you took this game seriously in some sort of capacity, because there was nothing else.
Yeah. Now we see $500,000 pots left and right. They've been diluted, right? Like, it's just nobody cares anymore.
It's not even that they don't. It's not just that we're desensitized. It's the sheer volume.
Yeah. Like,
you cannot remember all of the $500,000 pots.
Right.
But I'll never forget Brad Booth jamming $1 million with 4 deuce high versus Ivy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just can't forget those hands. There's so few and far between. I think the entirety of high stakes poker in its heyday, I think it was 4 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 10 to 15 episodes per season. You may have a running total of like 1,000 hands in the history of high stakes poker. And it's probably significantly less.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably actually less than 1,000 hands. So maybe 500 hands. And you have to remember the top 20. That's so easy.
Right.
You can probably remember the top 100. Right? But like, if we look at like just Hustler as one single example, how could you ever remember the top 20 Hustler hands when they've been running 5 days a week for the better part of 2 years?
Yeah, you couldn't.
Right? It's like you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 episodes, 400 episodes, something like that, 8 hours each. So we're talking like, I don't know, 2,400, 3,200 hours.
And I think like the characters as well. I mean, like, you had like the most iconic people in poker playing in this game, where it's like Hustlers, like, you know, or whatever, all these stream, it's like everyone has their, like, you know, people that the main characters on their stream, but they're not like, you know, like they're
the
not
consistency isn't really there.
It's just kind of the difference between, I guess, like the organic feel marketing versus like planted marketing, you know, where like the Hustler streams, you see the same people and like those are the people that are relevant, where with high stakes poker, it was the people that made themselves relevant through aptitude of the game.
Right.
Like Dwan got a seat always, D-Neg's got a seat always, Ivy got a seat always.
And then there was always like hot names like Brad Booth or Jamie Gold.
Right. You would always throw like, exactly.
Like Sammy Farhart came in the mix, like aptitude, right? And you just like found people and then put them in. Or like a good example being the big game where it was like a bunch of people that were already known and prominent in the community, and then someone completely random.
And the
it was
loose
like,
cannon.
hey,
Yeah.
like this could be you if you want
Right.
a giveaway, right?
Right, and that's the irony is that during its heyday, there was a lot of competition for these televised games, but it was still so rare. It was only high stakes poker, poker after dark, the big game, and then a little bit of like other stuff. Like I remember Fox Sports ran a thing. I think it was in coordination with Poker Stars, where they would play 6-handed sit and goes, and you would accumulate like points, like you would advance through. I can't remember the name of it. It's like right on the tip. It never really took off. Maybe it wasn't still. I don't know. It was one of the online sites. But anyway, there was only like a few memorable actual shows back then. So it's like, yeah, like those days are gone. We cannot replicate that. Poker Go is the closest thing we have to replicating that, and it's like it's behind a paywall. And even still, the amount of volume that they're putting out, the amount of volume that even Triton is putting out, only running quarterly. They ran 50 streams last year. That's a lot. And they're
You
not
sure you got
short
that number right?
It's 50-ish, 53. I don't know. I'm sure Feldman will fucking
He'll
correct
tell
me.
you. He'll let
Mighty
you know.
Mouse is in the chat. It's one of those things where it's like that's still a lot of fucking poker because we're not getting the edited down, condensed version of the best hands, right? We're just getting 8 to 10 hours straight, 50 times a year from one production house. That's a lot of fucking hands. It's a lot of poker. It's just different now. Yeah, the Premier League. Thank you, Jai Roberts. That I believe that was what it was called. Yeah, it's just changed, right? So it's completely changed, and
What is different?
everything, your attitude.
Yeah.
But like now,
The public's attitude.
right now, I think like the focus needs to be more localized, right? Back then, it was about global growth. It was even though these companies were in competition, the general objective was to make poker a global game. It was to I don't want to use the word indoctrinate, but it was to recruit anybody who found an interest in a mind sport that was highly competitive and had a lot of luck-based properties to it, right? But now I don't think we have that option any longer. Like, there's a lot of sharps in the game. Online has kind of like very much died off, and it's facing a lot of uphill problems. So whether you're talking about online or live, you almost want to like grow things locally again. You want to have a mid-stakes tour that is going to focus on middle America type of stuff. You want to have your online site put a big emphasis on the market that it serves and address the needs that they have. If it's reducing collusion and bots, then that should be where all of your marketing spend is going. Everything should be about messaging against the thing that plagues the community the most, because this is the only way that you retain and acquire new users, right? Like, we're just gone are the days of the global poker network. We're very much at a local scale now here.
Yeah.
And you move based off of where you are in your career trajectory. Whenever you're trying to pursue high stakes and, playing as big as possible for as much volume as possible, it's like, okay, well, there's a handful of meccas for this, right? Like, you're going to go to Texas and then graduate to Vegas. You're going to spend a lot of time in LA. You're going to find ways to network within this, right? If you're playing online, it's either going to be GG if you're able to play globally, or ACR, and you're going to have to battle, and the pool is only going to be 50 to 100 people at most. If it's tournaments, then again, either it's going to be one of those two sites online, or you're going to start playing Tritons. You're going to start playing Poker Tour or Poker Go events, things like that. Everything is localized now. It's very clear that if you're a company in this space, you have a niche, right? And you're going to serve a niche market. Nobody serves everybody anymore. And even the online sites, like they have a heavy slant one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like, it's abundantly clear that like GG has a heavy slant towards servicing recreationals, or at least they attempt to. And within that, they offer a lot of high stakes, right? It's very clear that ACR has a heavy slant towards serving the online grinder pro.
Right.
And they have a heavy slant towards that. You know what I mean?
ACR is definitely for the regs.
For sure. For
Like the
sure.
online
Absolutely.
regs,
And that's why they get so much scrutiny, and maybe even more so than GG, because GG kind of like prices themselves out with the rake. And ACR gets a ton of blowback. Well, one, because they have their CEO like publicly sucking virtual dick. And then two, because like, again, it's very reg infested. It's all about them trying to preserve whatever small edge they still possess. And that's really fucking hard to do whenever the next edge up is RTAing or botting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, I'm not bullish on the Durr signing. I think that like 2 years ago, this could have moved the needle in a tremendous way, especially like during COVID type of stuff. But it's like he's out there, he's on Triton tour. He's going to spend the vast majority of his time in Asia, which to my understanding, ACR, that's not their market. So I don't really know what he does specifically for the American reg, but let alone like the general reg that is grinding on that site. Seems like a really big PR play, and maybe an ill-timed one.
Do you think there's a lot of people out there that don't pay a lot of attention to everything that's going on in the poker world?
Yes.
And then like, so it's like maybe somebody like Skippy who's just like, oh, I know Tom Dwan. He's this site. Oh, maybe I'll play on that site because he plays there.
Well, let's ask him.
We don't care.
We don't care. There you go.
We don't care.
Right. But I don't know because
Like for you, if you wanted to play online tomorrow, what would be the number one thing that you would look for?
I would Google where can I play poker online.
Right. So it would just be ease of access, right?
Yeah.
Whatever allows, whatever
I mean, I might
accepts
text you guys at this
Sure.
point. because I
yeah,
have
right.
to,
But like say you didn't have that ability
Right,
to
right.
do that.
It's just simply going to be whoever makes it the easiest for you to play cards.
Correct.
Right. So it's just like, yeah, you can see that. I think that that's a really valid point to point out because even in Tom's messaging talking about progressive Squid Game and shit like that, that is very much for the regs.
Right.
Progressive Squid Game will absolutely wipe your rec pool so goddamn fast.
Right. And nobody even knows what that is if you're not like really
In the know.
In the know. Like
Yeah.
like Skippy was like, what the fuck is a progressive Squid
People are
Game?
gonna hear Squid Game and want to
Yeah.
play. It's like no.
Like, are they gonna give me a little cookie and I have to like carve it out? Like, what's happening
Now
here?
that would catch my interest.
Right?
We have like a little stylist and we're like, fucking, how did I end up with the goddamn umbrella? Fuck.
You have to, whoever the last one to finish it at the table has to pay everybody.
Somehow it's like,
And you got to concentrate on that while you're trying to concentrate on playing poker.
it's poker's version of
Look,
the Ookie Cookie.
if you turn,
Skippy was at a fratty, understands?
I thought it, and I just hope no one was gonna say it. But
Oh, you haven't been watching, buddy. I always
just stream
say
of
it.
consciousness.
We're 473 shows in. I don't know how we've made it this far. Actually, I meant to bring this up in the beginning, but I guess I'll mention it now. So, for whatever reason, nights where I am having the hardest time sleeping, like we went out last night till like, I don't know, what, 12:30 we finished dinner, whatever. So I went home and I didn't fall immediately asleep. And I could feel a little bit of anxiety building. You know, when you're like really tired and you just can't seem to get to sleep. And now all of a sudden you're like right on the precipice of like, I'm going to get so anxious that I'm never going to sleep. I was kind of there because I knew I had to get up early. Finally, I like doze off, fall asleep. And my pup Scout, she comes scratching at the door. She wants in. It's like, okay. So it's like 3 a.m. and she woke me up from a dead sleep. But I was definitely dreaming when she woke me up. I don't remember what, but it was very vivid. And I kind of woke up with that like, elevated heart rate in a panic, even though I just knew it was my dog scratching at the door. I lit her in. I try to lay back down and fall asleep. And suddenly I just have this like apocalyptic thought wash over me. And I just think to myself, we're about to do our 500th episode, which is so utterly meaningless, right? But then it suddenly dawns on me. It's like, what the fuck is the plan here? What are we going to do? When does this end? Do we do 1,000 shows?
Maybe, why not?
5,000 shows? Like,
10,000.
When does this end? And I'm just like laying there and it's just building up more and more. And I'm like, I'm too old for this shit. It's like, I gotta do, I'm moving back to Pittsburgh. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this show tomorrow. It's over. Skippy's going to be on the farewell episode. And I'm going to take a flight back with him. And this persists for like 90 minutes. And it just starts to snowball out of control. I was like, okay, so I'm closing my company for sure. I'm definitely ending the podcast. I think I'm going to move in with Skippy and I'm going to nanny his kids for the first month. And then I'm going to find my own place. And then I'm just going to live in a cabin in the woods in Pittsburgh with my dogs forever. And I fell asleep. And I woke up and I had a sense of peace. I was like, okay, so I know what's going to happen now.
It really is. So like knowing what your apocalyptic plans are it actually provides a lot of peace. So I would love to have you as the nanny for my kids.
Great.
I also do have a cabin in the woods that you can stay
right.
at.
You do.
So
I forgot about
it
that.
is already very much there and available to you. So, just relax. And, once you do your 500 episode, then you'll do the 501st and then just continue on after that.
Well, I did. So 2 things. First, I didn't forget that you texted me and said your son is a genius.
Yes.
And you want me to teach him. And I hard persuaded you against this.
Well, you're wrong, as in most things, because
well, that's why I'm saying I was persuading you against it.
here's the problem. I have empathy, right? So it's difficult for me to kind of drive him the way he could benefit from because he is so intelligent. You don't.
How dare you?
You don't have empathy. So you could really get the most out of him. So I'm thinking a summer camp type of thing where maybe I send him out here for a month or 2.
Is he old enough to lift weights yet?
He is he's 5 years old.
All right.
He can lift
Get him
things.
in the gym.
No, I'll just have him swing a bat instead.
Yeah,
It's definitely time for sports.
He's in karate.
Oh, that's great.
He's crushing it there.
That's something
We'll
I
hand
wish
him
I
over
would
to
have.
Andre.
Yeah,
can do some
Andre is
jujitsu.
black belt jiu-jitsu. Very scary man. I mean, he's about yay high.
Yeah,
Roughly your height, but
I'm like yay +1.
I think I could have called him Skippy also. So the other aspect of this is that I actually did formulate a plan. And I don't know that I'm actually going to follow through on it, but I kind of decided in that moment, I was like, 1,000 episodes is when this ends. And I mapped it out in my head. And I was like, okay, so if the 500th episode is 5 weeks from now, that means assuming 50 weeks a year, 5 episodes a week, 250 episodes a year-ish. I was like, okay, that means August 1st-ish, 2026 will be the last day of this podcast. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because what's the alternative? Am I going to be 48 yelling on a mic about ACR?
Yes.
And no, I don't. I care enough.
You say this now.
I cared enough. I cared enough to be the public service announcement guy. But you got to pass the torch at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you're
know?
obviously going to run out of things to bitch about. You're
No,
not the
no,
type of
no,
person
no, Berkey,
that wants to
no,
get a
he'll never run out of
platform and
things.
complain about how stupid everybody else is.
He's old man yelling at the
He's
cloud.
not going to have anything to talk about. Nobody's going to do anything stupid that needs to be called out on.
No, of course they're going to do dumb things, but my ability to care lessens day over day. Right? It actually has gotten to the point where I think somewhere around episode 200, I was very passionate about, because we were knee deep in cheating scandals. We caught one of the biggest cheating groups of all time online became public and got outed, and he literally got banned from everything. It was the biggest win I think the poker community has had in many years, where this guy was celebrated as one of the best to ever fucking do it, only to come to find out that he was running a 7, maybe 8-figure cheating ring online, right? And we sussed that out. Not just us, but we were a part of that, right? And we were just up to our waist in it. That was happening. Other stuff was happening alongside it. This Jack 4 scandal happened, and it was just okay, this is an important role that we're serving. There are people who just are casuals that get to tune in occasionally and get caught up. And it's that was nice. Then around episode 400 or so, when I started to see the repetitive nature of it all, where it's just oh, there's more fucking botting online. Oh, people are RTAing again online over and over. And it just became a thing where it's a fucking meme. And somewhere over the last 100 episodes or so, I know people think that I take myself too serious, but I've been having such fun just poking at how laughable it is that we're dumb enough to keep fucking entertaining the same suspect behavior over and over and over again, and just show up with our dollars and say, where can I hand these over so that I can get, fucked over a little bit more? And it's funny to me now, but it won't be in episode 1112. At some point, it's just gonna be this is sad. You got the whole range of emotions. It's starts with passion, becomes pretty funny, and then at one point you're just I mean,
I don't know, Burke. You know, sometimes life has a way of surprising you. Anything could happen in the next 2 years.
if by anything you mean that this turns into a sports podcast,
I mean, maybe, you know, maybe we partner with, Pat McAfee.
like you want to talk
right?
about,
Like,
you want to
Pat
talk
and
about
Matt
something to bitch
McAfee.
about. Rumor is Russell Wilson is cooking in Pittsburgh right now,
Jesus.
and I don't trust that man around the stove. I can't think.
What's more cringe? Let's ride or unlimited?
It's close.
What's he going to do in Pittsburgh? He's going to have some sort of catchphrase for Pittsburgh.
Right.
Here we
Oh,
go.
Oh,
man,
no.
That's, oh God, that's what it's gonna be.
No, that's so bad, man.
That's so
what-
good, but so bad.
It's
what it's
so
gonna be.
bad. He's
Get ready for it.
he's the cringiest human to ever fucking put on cleats. I can't think of anyone who would be a worse fit for the locker room than Russell Wilson. And somehow, because he's the league fucking minimum, and like
We're gonna get him. He's gonna lead us to a Super Bowl. And we're
impossible.
Like, what just happened?
Just absolutely impossible.
It really is.
It's truly impossible.
That's a lot of hope.
If what I would accept is if he filled the role of Trubisky. If he came in and was like a veteran who was grooming Pickett to be the
or whoever.
starter.
Or you
No,
mean-
not
you mean-
whoever. I'm not in
You
on
mean-
Mason fucking
you mean
Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph?
Shut up. It's Pickett.
Berkey is so anti-Rudolph. He's like,
I've seen
Right.
this story time and time again. He's fucking a Bubby Brister derivative.
listen, I know. I'm not.
He hasn't been the same since Miles Garrett took his head off.
Listen, I'm trolling a little bit. Like
A little
obviously, like if like anybody that has any sort of potential, it's Pickett. So
Yeah. So if we had him in that role where he came in and he played the role of backup, and we had an elite guy for 1.2 million backing up our rookie or our young player, whatever, fine. That's not going to be what happens. And also in Pittsburgh, when you're not fucking in first place by 3 games, the most popular person in the entire city is the goddamn backup quarterback, and I will not stand for Pittsburgh screaming, "Let Russ cook." This man is abysmal. I'm in the muck.
I was
Let's
gonna
get
say
to it.
you are in the muck. Jeez.
Let's get to it, Guap.
Yeah, let's do it, Guap. All right, we are coming back to the muck. We're heading to Texas. Texas is in the muck, but maybe not. Maybe Texas is cooking. So we'll see. We got a submission here from PM Phillips 3, playing 1-2 down at Texas Card Room. They didn't say exactly which one. Doesn't matter. And so they're 100 big blinds effective, so $200. We got an early limp, and we are in the cutoff with ace 8 of spades. We make it 12. The button calls, and everybody else folds. So we go heads up to a flop of ace of hearts, queen of hearts, deuce of clubs. We decide to check, followed by a check back from the button. The turn is the 7 of spades. Now we lead about 75% pot, 20 into 29. We are met with a call. And then the river, we river 2 pair, 8 of clubs. We go almost pot, 60 into 69. And now we were met with an all-in for 100 more, 108 more. And we decide to call. And we are shown the ace-queen offsuit for a better 2 pair, and we lose. And now we're wondering, is it a just pay spot? Should I do anything different? Right, like they could have 7-8 here. They could have worse 2 pairs. Right when you look at this hand, when I looked at this hand, I was like, okay, this just seems pretty straightforward.
What do you think, Skip?
Yeah,
I believe I agree with a Monopoly guy.
you just pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Right,
lose that. I'm gonna lose that.
As
hand.
you're watching that hand, were you like, okay,
Yeah,
I probably
that's-
play this pretty much the same way?
Pretty happy to see that
Right.
8 on the river, huh?
Do you,
Yeah.
What about the check on the flop? You flop top pair. Are you checking? Are you betting?
I'm checking.
You're checking.
I'm checking.
Okay, that's probably
Wow.
good. Yeah, that's
Not all trappers wear fur hats, huh?
right.
Fascinating.
That's funny.
Yeah, okay. So I think that there is something important to take out of this, but probably less so from the vantage point of like, oh, I was in a tough river decision when he jams on me type of thing. Like, this hand makes no fucking sense. I would expect to see like only pocket eights somehow,
You should just
or a chop.
Yeah, I mean, like ace queen should just not be in that range at all.
Like
I mean,
7,
three
you'll see
betting-
7-8.
Yeah, fine, sure.
Enough for the time,
'cause
right?
especially with the 7 being a
Check,
spade,
check,
that's
flop,
nice.
bet the turn, call, check, all in.
But he called pot on the turn. I mean,
2/3 pot?
7-8. No.
What do you mean? It was 20 to 29.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I was thinking river. Yeah, I think like the principle that you want to take away from this is that first and foremost, when you like, we don't really have better hands. We have ace queen ourselves, and perhaps
Do we though? Do we check flop with ace queen there?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that flop is going to be relatively high. I mean, here's the thing: out of position, everything's
Yeah.
a relatively high check
That's
frequency.
true.
I was
true.
literally about to say
Yeah.
that. Like, I'm checking 100%.
We're-
Well, you should never range check. I mean, you should have leads, and
Just check
especially
in the dark, you know.
especially ace queen deuce, you will have bets, but like you feel less incentivized to bet ace queen than you would be to like bet ace king, for example, because you just block hands that can call. You don't really want to funnel them to only hands that can outdraw you.
You block hands I can call, and then if they stab, you can check raise to get money in.
Right.
But with ace king, the board gets a
Right.
little bit
Like,
scary.
Yeah, you're a lot happier to bet queens than ace queen, I think. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like again, one of the highest betting frequency boards that you're going to find is going to be like 27 to 30%, something like that. So it's not like checking is ever going to be a big error. I think the thing is that like we just can't care when people choose to trap, right? Because like the hand was kind of predestined. I think this is a much more interesting spot if the river is like a deuce, where now ace x chops, or if it's like a 3, something along those lines. Like, can we still play pot on the end? And if so, what are we hoping to call? In theory, it's like, yeah, king queen has to fucking call a lot of the time after check flop,
Yeah.
2/3 turn, pot river. But when we improve the 2 pair, it's an interesting, I think what's most interesting about this spot is now what are we targeting on the end, right? Because instinctually, I would say, well, with an SPR here of 2.5, I think jam is very viable. And I think you have a lot of polarizing bluffs that can do this. You have a fair amount of like Jack 10 no hearts. You have like some King 10 King Jack, although that might be a little bit too high up. You also have like just some sheer nothing that you decided to bet turn bet river with, like maybe pocket 3s, pocket 4s.
4 or
And
5.
you're hoping
4,
to
5,
get, you're hoping
right.
to get called by just like a middle of the road ace. Like
I think it's just like you don't care, right?
Yeah.
Like they just have to figure out how to defend. And I don't like to pass on spots where I have a hand that can go for the extreme. Now, to be fair, like this might not even be a part of strategy here. And even if it is, it could be a part of strategy that you just eliminate because it's a low frequency, complex split, right? Like maybe the all in gets in there like 8% of the time. But if you just never jam river, you're a little bit easier to play against, but also your strategy is very simplified and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting to me is running through the decision on the river of like, how do we pick this size, or how do we pick a size, I guess, at a somewhat awkward SPR where it's very unclear what hands we're targeting to call. And I think the way to look at it is, well, what size would I like to bluff with if I had a hand like 5 high? Like if I have hands that have just sheer board removal, right? Where like I have 5 high, so I have no blocking power on the board at all. Well, it's like, do I want to try to target his king highs when I bluff with this hand, or do I want to try to target his like queen X or maybe under pairs or whatever when I try to bluff with these hands? And the answer is like it probably fits both, but if you're trying to target the king high type of hands, then you're going to be more in like a linear size of 2/3 pot. If you're trying to target queen X, then it's only all in. So the pot bet size to me is hand playing here. It's like we clearly have the 2 pair. We don't have ace jack.
Yeah, and I think at these stakes you're going to see a lot. Well, obviously, you're going to see a lot of like the hand, the hand play. But you're also going to see like you just don't see the 2x, 2.5x
No,
pot
never.
shove ever come in.
Right.
So like they're almost capped at pot, at betting pot or just under pot. Like that's the biggest bet you're almost ever going to.
But that's a
use or
choice, is
see.
my point.
Oh, it is a choice that you're capping your strategy by doing that. But like that's mainly like there's a lot of people that don't even like, probably like never even cross their mind. To
and again,
pot.
that's like totally fine. I think the bigger issue becomes like if we're not betting ace jack for pot as well, then I think we're beginning to make errors because it should be clear that the button doesn't have better than ace jack here very often.
Right.
He'll have ace 8, he'll have 8-7, but like when we choose to bet for value for pot,
You could also have ace 3.
exactly, we're targeting
King,
a very
queen.
specific portion of range
Queen,
that
jack.
we think ace jack is worth this much pot share against.
Right.
So I'll be curious to see what the sim has to say as far as like the sizings go. I think flop and turn are probably pretty good. Turn maybe could go bigger, I'm not sure, but
Yeah, so this is the theory one, and then if I look over here, this is the practical one, or like what happened. What had happened was, so flop they like big bet or check for out of position,
Okay.
being that you're not going to be betting very often.
wow, ace 8 pure.
A third of the time, yeah. Ace 8's just the bottom of the value range, kind of, I guess. Just has something to do with the interactivity with the button call. Like ace 9, you're mixing some checks, so how big of a difference can it be?
Right.
Not that big of a deal.
Yeah, like the ace queens want to go big, obviously.
Like,
That's what I
can
thought.
just 50-50 it, right? Just do 50-50 for ace 8 just so we have it on later streets, you know? Sure. Not a big deal.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that like ace queen, like you would think like you're gonna have big bet or check a lot on this flop, so like you're gonna check back a lot, but that's probably one of the ones that's gonna go into the big bet.
Well, you
because
see ace king is
So
pure.
ace king's
where
a
ace
pure
queen,
bet.
like, does
Ace
a fair amount
queen
of
you
checking.
mix because check raising is
Yeah.
nice. Ace king check
Gotcha.
raising is less nice, but getting value now is good. Like call it driving the value of your range, and then you're gonna have some bluffs in there as well, like the small pairs that can maybe make a wheel. You're gonna have like some of the flush draws. You have to have a flush draw when you bet with the either flush draw or gutter. Like have equity, right? The principle of out of position aggression is mostly going to be equity driven. Like 5-4, 6-5, 7-6 of hearts only.
Oh, yeah.
King 10, king jack. You can kind of pick check to check raise with the combo draw, and then you bet with the gutters.
Those small pairs, they're choosing the ones with the heart.
They're choosing the ones with the heart more, like pure. Like 3 is pure, 4 is pure with the heart. It's nice. And then you want to check when you have like 5 of diamonds, 5 of spades, more so with like 3 and 4s of diamonds, because
You
you
could just
don't-
go hard. Well, I'm saying you bet with the hearts because you could just go hard and you could win.
Yeah, you can go hard, you can win. You can also bluff on flush completing turns. But when you have the bad suits, like 3 of diamonds, 3 of spades, you don't block any of the continues for the button.
because they have backdoors.
With
and
the
they
backdoors,
have,
correct. So that's not going to be good for barreling. So, and then sometimes you have like the weird, like I wouldn't worry about this, like the king 9 is like, oh, you have a heart, sure. Like you have some equity, but not really equity. So you can turn bluffs on like a 10 or a jack. So yeah, you're just going to go big bet or check because small bet doesn't really function very well. Like why would you go small when the response for imposition, like we can just edit the node, right? And just quickly look at why small bet is a bad idea. That's 25 big. Why small bet's a bad idea. Get to like the music. Dun, 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 dun. So you bet more if you bet small, and like, is it a strategic decision? Like it can be, but what ends up happening from the button here is you get 18% folds. So you're not really folding out anything except for like the stone dusto hands, like 6s, no backdoor,
Right.
8-7, no backdoor. Like you get those to fold anyways, and you're not doing yourself many favors. But if you go bigger bet, you start causing indifference from like some of the pairs with the heart, I imagine, like the under pairs with no wheel draw,
Yeah.
and things along those lines where it's like, yeah, my hand's kind of nice, but how nice can it actually become? And the answer is like, not that great, right? Like you see all of these, this indifference is starting to happen when you choose the bigger size on flop, where if you go quarter, you're just going to get peeled a ton. So we go for check. We have to node lock the check back in.
Oh, because it's pure
Wait,
bet.
did we? Cut off. Oh, it's checking now. Weird. Anyways, okay. We check the button. Now the button is going to go for pot or check for their stab size. Reason for that being the top of their range is like the ace queen flat pre, which is mostly going to be betting. Like sure, you see some combos at the bottom left, like bottom right, sorry, like ace queen with the queen of clubs. You're going to check back more because you block some of the equity hands with the queen of clubs, like king queen of clubs, queen jack of clubs type stuff. And then you're going to be betting a lot of these pairs with the wheel because you can maybe make a straight or a flush. You can also get the button, or you can get the cutoff to start folding hands like kings, probably with no suit. Like you have kings on ace, queen, deuce, and face pot. You're like, that's not good.
Right.
And now you fold without the heart. Like you have a heart, you can make a flush, you call.
Yeah.
So the big bet here, like the polar stab is going to be really nice as you're not betting very often. And the bottom of your value range is looking like ace nine. So ace nine is like your worst value bet, if you will. So check, check. Turn was a seven of, what was it? Seven of clubs? No, not seven of clubs. Seven of diamonds. Diamond or spade, either way.
I think it was
spades.
Yeah, I think it was spades.
Okay, sure. So seven of spades. Now we see here the cutoff's opening, like reopening range is going to be a geometric two sizer check. So you're going to bet the same size across multiple streets to be all in, which I thought was going to be the case on a disconnected turn. Where now, if we're the cutoff and we check a hand like ace queen, or we check a hand like that improves like ace seven, we're like, okay, he doesn't have very many good hands anymore because he checked back. So now that's his problem. So when we have top end value, bottom of our value now being ace nine, it looks like, with good suits. With ace nine, you're like, okay, he doesn't have better aces than me because they're mostly going to open on the flop. So when he checks back, he's going to have a lot of the worst ones, a lot of pairs, and things along those lines. So now when you bet, you're not betting very often, but when you are, you're going for the big size. Big size being two pair plus mostly, bluffs being with like Jack 10, like Jack 10's a great one. You have equity, you block their best checkbacks like ace Jack and ace 10. And then you have like your small wheel that you check the flop with, like threes, because you're just hoping that he has a middle of the deck portion like pocket eights. Because if you check and he checks back eights, he now has to fold them. And then sometimes like you river a three and you win, and that's great. That's
Landon,
stuff.
big bet here is 133%.
Yeah.
Okay.
2E.
It's geo. Okay.
Yeah, so this aligns with what I was basically saying as far as like not having the awkward stack size on the end, because once you start to run it on turn, you just follow through on these boards.
Yep. And you're just going to have some hands that are going to bet and then check, like Jack 10 of hearts. You probably go 2E and then rivers a blank. You check, you give up, because if you're just trying to hit with that
you have
one,
other hands to eat it
and
with.
then you use Jack 10 without the suits because it's better. So yeah, this is supposed to be like theory size is 133, but we go for the B67. And like, is it that big of a deal? No. Is it like the highest EV? Probably not, because we can just literally check this, where the EV for the cutoff is like 7.73 bigs, and then you go here, and then you see the turn, and you go to ranges. It's 7.76.
Yeah.
So you're losing a little bit.
Not losing much,
right? It's not going to losing much, but it's like the wrong strategic ideology, if you will. Where I thought that ace 8 would be a pure check if for the big size, for the GO2 size, because it doesn't really serve you very well. Like we're mostly going to be checking because we're trying to bet two pair plus. Ace 9, like good suits, is like the only one. So that's like the bottom of your value, which you can still probably check and lose nothing with. And then in practice, if you are going to call it quote unquote use the hand play size, it does get in there. So you're not making a mistake.
Can you tell me why ace 9 of clubs likes to bet there?
Not particularly. Like I don't really have a great reason. Probably has something to do with the backdoor suit blocks.
Okay.
You know, like there's a club on the board and then you check back. So you don't interfere as much with like the worst ace X suited, I imagine. Like you don't block suited ace X. Like you don't, or something along those lines. I don't fucking, some things are hard. So anyways, like for hand play, it's going to be fine. Like it's going to be the highest DV option. So it's like you can make the argument of if you don't want to play 2E, but then the counter is why not just play the better strategy that wins you more?
Right.
So that's kind of where that dies. So now, like, let's say we go bet call, rivers the 8 of clubs, and now we look at the cutoff, and we see here, like, the sizing options are some jams, like Matt was talking about for 2x pot, where...
Oh, look at me, 14% of range.
There you go,
Like-
Burke. You said 8. You were pretty close.
Like, you have your... like, okay, if you look at 14%, what does it look like? It looks like you have the 7x blocks. So this is where your bluffs are going to come from. They're going to come from the turn 2 pair blocks that block a7 suited check back. Like 8-7 or 8-7 suited 2 pair, 10-7, queen 7's 2 pair, king 7. So you're trying to mirror that you have like 6-7 for the set blocks where he check backs 7's probably pure.
Or 7s.
Or you represent that you have sevens or two pair. So the jam is nice. And then Jack 10, some of them you're giving up. I had this wrong where you actually bluff with the hearts. I would have never bluffed with the hearts in my entire life. So you learn something new every day. And then you're going to be going for a block sizing with your ace X's. And then you're going to use like pocket aces as the hand that you're going to protect with, because when you have 3 aces, how can they call you? So this is what it looks like in the hand play
What are your
line.
small pairs doing? Like 85%? Pretty much pure.
Yeah, small pairs are going for it. They do well, and
But they don't jam, right?
they don't jam.
Okay.
The jam is like very specific.
Same thing with 5-4. Doesn't jam, but it goes big.
5-4 does not jam.
The
no.
jam needs the blocking properties.
The jam needs to have the 2 pair
Right,
blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Because
makes
if we
sense.
look at like the all-in node and we see how in position plays fold or call, like the bulk of their call, it's
Just
like
2 pair plus.
just gonna be 2 pair plus.
Yeah.
Like set worth a lot, ace 7 worth a lot,
Right.
and then like all of these ace wheels are like really mad because they're like
The wheels do more calling than ace 10, ironically.
yeah the wheel, because you're not really worried about what kicker your ace has when they have 2
Correct.
pair.
Yeah.
You're more worried about, oh, are they bluffing me or not?
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Go back to the cutoff betting node.
Yeah.
So ace jack is like the 85% ish.
Ace jack is the top of the ace.
Yeah. Okay. So that was kind of like what I was implying. Like
Ace jack,
if
ace
we're gonna
10.
go pot with ace 8, it's very important that we're also doing the same with ace jack, ace 10, because they don't really have better to call with.
So if we just one size strat the pot or the check, we'll see here that like the bottom of value is going to be ace 9 even, like
Mhm.
depending on your suits.
Mhm.
So like ace 10, ace jack have to be in there for pot. And then if you get jammed on, you're just like, oh fuck me, like I guess I just have to mix it because I'm supposed to call sometimes. And
Right. And then
my,
like ace queen goes for the check eat.
and my hand's really
Same thing
good.
with aces.
Like they jam and you're just like, oh man, like like my hand was worth a lot, now it's not worth very much.
Yeah.
Like it's still winning a lot to call with depending on your suits.
But that's obviously what makes the river very clear decision with 2 pair is like ace jack is still calling at a pretty reasonable frequency.
Yeah, so
Right. Well, it's suit dependent, right? The ace
Sure.
of clubs is bad because you don't block ace 8 suited, ace 7 suited. But
Right.
then when you have ace of diamonds or ace of spades, you block extra combos.
yeah, but the 2 pairs just no decision.
Yeah, especially if you have the
you
ace
just pay.
and 8 spades.
So like if you look over here, like ace jack good suits, like perfect suits is worth 1.5 bigs, and then ace jack second perfect suits is worth 1.3, and then bad suits is worth 0, is negative. So don't call with bad suits. But it's hard to do in game. Like it's hard to look at the suits and think about the combos, and that's kind of what makes the really good players really good. Is
I think
like all
that-
of this stuff gets taken into account.
I think that's a big part of, it's a very granular aspect of strategy, and one that most people don't have to concern themselves with. But like ace jack is very sensitive there when facing jam, right? Like we're making a fair amount of pot share calling with the good suits, and we're losing that same amount of pot share calling with the bad suits.
Yeah.
That's like a very interesting nuance that people need to be hyper aware of. This is like probably one of the few examples where blockers are that critical, right? Like generally the meme is if your coach is talking about blockers, he's not very good at what he does.
Mhm.
And I do believe that to be generally true, because if you're talking about blockers on the onset, like you're way too granular about things that should just be handled at a global principled level. But there are certain instances like this where you're really trying to fine tune a decision where, you're getting jammed on for not much more.
Mhm.
And that price that you're being laid, in essence, is always going to implore you to call at some frequency with hands that feel very uncomfortable. So now it is actually very worthy of studying the nuance and saying like, okay, well, ace jack feels very odd to me to have to call here. And it's like, oh, well, don't worry. We have an answer for that. We call when we have these 2 suits, and we fold when we have these 2 suits. And in between, like whatever you do is just going to be fine. It's probably going to break even-ish. So I think that that's a good example of how to better understand the way you should be approaching study, and to like be much more clear on how you approach blockers. Because I think generally speaking, they're way overstated, and people focus way too much mental power on it, where they would do a lot better removing themselves from such a granular level of the game and just zooming out and just being like, how the fuck did I get here? Did I make errors in my sizings? Like, should I even be put to a tough decision in this spot? And like, we could see following the matrix there, ace 8 just needed to be all in by the end.
Mhm.
If we had played this appropriately, we would have 2-E'd on the turn, or we would have checked. Either way, we would have had less of a decision on the river once we do improve the 2-pair.
2E was what, 130?
133.
Yeah, so you bet 133 on the
I think
on
Ace
the
8 pure check
turn
though.
and then bet 133.
Yeah, Ace 8 with pure
But
check.
I think Ace 8 was pure check.
I'll fix it in a second. But like his just example being, we go pot, and then you look at the buttons combos, and you just see like, okay, what's their value? Pocket 8s that calls the turn, which mostly isn't going to, but not the point. 7's gonna be in there because we have a set if they choose not to raise or whatever. Like if we bet 67, he might have some raises, which is why 7s don't exist as often. And then you see Ace 7 and you see Ace 8, and it's like, okay, their value is 2-pair. And if I block 2-pair, my hand's good. If I don't block 2-pair, my hand's bad. And that's kind of how bluff catching works in relation to playing against polar reopens. So like, let's say we go to the theory answer and we go to Ace 8 cutoff. We go here and we just lock a check like half the time, just so we can see like what Ace 8's supposed to kind of like, how is Ace 8 supposed to get stacked versus like how did Ace 8 get stacked, because strategic stuff is important. So we check, they check. Turn was the 7 of spades, and like I would be very certain that we're gonna 2-ear check still, and Ace 8 doesn't bet. Why we block now? What the hell? Well,
Yeah, it does.
Well, now if you give two sizes, it's probably like mix. It could probably mix both, but we can like check the EV difference in a second. Right. So now like we can still split two sizes. Would I say to do this? No. But the EV of the strat is like 7.7. So now if you simplify to only playing 2-ear check, it goes from 7.69 to 7.67. So now you're losing near nothing to just play a polar strategy, and now like your range looks pretty clean. Like you check the Ace 8, you bet your 2 pairs, you bet your hands with equity like Jack 10, and then you bet some of your wheels that you didn't bet the flop with because having a heart was bad, but now having a heart is good because they check back hands with a heart in it, and now you bet and they fold because they didn't turn a flush draw. So we go we go check, and then their open size is also 2E because they check back the flop. So when they reopen the turn, they're saying that they have Ace 7, pocket 7s, or a check back pair that they need to protect. So what would happen in this instance versus Ace Queen? They probably just go for the big bet, and then you have Ace 8, still peel because your hand's too good, and then the river's an 8, and you get stacked. So
right,
you just get stacked in that fashion, but or you check call, check jam river, but.
Yeah,
you're always getting stacked here.
I think that's important. I think what you just demonstrated is very important because obviously if we're betting 2/3 pot on the turn with Ace 8, then generally speaking, we're probably betting the turn too often.
Yeah.
We're probably just like devoid of Ace X when we double check, and that's an issue. If you guys would like to submit your own version of In the Muck for us to cover, feel free to head over to our Discord channel. You can hit hashtag Discord in the chat or go to our Twitter page at Solve4YTV. It's the pinned tweet. It'll take you right there. While you're at it, be sure to tune in tomorrow. I just got the message. There is a study session led by Chi. Ooh. He is our community guru. He's putting it together. It looks like it's going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. The message is looking for reasons not to fold. This week's study session has you covered. Join us at 1 p.m. as Will Huggins, also former Academy attendee, reveals misconceptions about blind versus blind play. Feel free to participate or just pop in and listen. Link is in the Discord. I can't express enough how valuable I think that this study group is. Will was a standout student at the Academy, as was Chi. They're going to be leading the charge tomorrow. I think there will be a ton of value there. If you happen to miss it, the replay is available on solve4y.io. All you have to do is have free roll access, so it's no cost to you whatsoever. Just sign up, give your email, and you will be able to watch that replay. So be sure to check that out. Skip, what do you think? Your first introduction to solvers, you know everything you need to know now?
What is SPR?
Stack to pot ratio.
Stack to pot ratio.
Yeah.
Also, so the person did it right or they did not do it right?
It was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
They didn't make any huge errors, but like they could play the hand a little better. Their sizing could have been a little bit better to maximize their EV.
Got it.
Knowing that software output that you just saw is important to be able to compete in today's game. Does that make poker more or less interesting to you?
It's so funny. I wanted to ask you the same question, like watching that. Yeah,
so that's what the bots are doing then.
They're
bots are doing
They're
that.
basically drawing from that. Yes.
They're not.
So you're playing against a robot who is doing that.
Well, it's not. They're not getting it I don't think it's
Of course
so
they are.
perfect.
No, I mean, yeah, they basically have a bot RTAing.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
guess so, yeah.
it's going to be a simplified strategy. It's going to be
Right.
like one size on every street. Or
right,
whatever,
right,
but-
right. It's
How-
like that, but not as.
How far are we
complex.
away with, we were talking about this last night a little bit about, AI taking over the world. How far away are we from like just AI playing AI perfectly?
I mean, that was an AI device you just saw. It
Yeah.
solves in 4 seconds.
Right.
So it's not pulling from a database. It's actually in real time running those calculations.
So is
Mhm.
online poker even going to be feasible in
I
a
don't
couple
know.
years?
I mean,
I
that's-
don't think so.
It's going to be tough, right? It's going to be tough. So everybody should just go to the Jewel and go to
live is.
poker.
I'm
and-
very confident that live is
Yeah.
forever preserved because of ego and how slow it is.
Mhm.
Right, like playing this way works really well if you're basically a data entry person, right? Like you're just cranking out hundreds of thousands of hands and you're just trying to earn on the fringe, right? But in live, it's just like you can look a motherfucker in the face and just say, this guy hasn't done the
Yeah,
work.
not until technology is so advanced that you can have something like maybe like an Apple Vision Pro as
neural-
contacts, and then you could just be running Sims while you're playing live, which I think we're probably still far away from that.
Are we?
I don't know, maybe not. Who knows? The way shit moves so quick.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I agree
So-
with Berkey that
so-
live is pretty safe.
So how do you really got to do that push towards live then?
Well,
like to reinvigorate like that, because going to the casino, for a reg, I believe is the term.
A
You're
rec. The rec. See, there's
A
a rec.
rec-
There's a rec and a reg. So the recs are just recreational
Recreational.
players. Then the regs
Those
are
are
like
regulars.
the regulars.
But those are not like professional players.
Yeah,
They could be,
are.
they don't
could
have to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're always there, playing. Some are winning, some are losing.
For the recs, you're dealing with the reg for it's like I'm gonna do it. I'm planning on losing money, but there's no the home game seems to have gone away.
well,
in a
home
lot of
games are.
respects.
Yeah, I mean, they're not safe.
Like
is the thing.
yeah,
Right.
like
And there's a casino in every state now,
right. I'm sure you
give or
told,
take.
told the story about when the guy showed up with AR. Is that your?
That happened to Brian, not to me.
That was
Luckily.
that was a little scary when we got robbed, and people came in with machine guns.
I would have been the hero.
I was never.
No,
happy.
I would not have been the hero.
No.
I wasn't ready to die then. But
I gave
now,
up-
now I might tackle a motherfucker.
I gave up my money.
I mean,
so
once
quick.
you get past that 500 episode,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like now, it's like, hey, buddy, I only got 500 more to go. So if today's the day,
I've
let's
done
do this.
all I came here to do.
That's right. I've left my mark. Yeah. So I guess from your vantage point, does that interest you? Is it fascinating at all to be able to peel away the layers of the game and have more answers?
It is interesting. I'm on the kind of an initial live watch is a little bit hard to follow kind of all this.
Yeah,
stuff.
of course.
Does it scare you? Do you look at that and be like, wow, that's what people are studying? I don't want to play against people that are studying that stuff.
It makes me more accepting of losing. I was
Okay.
like, yeah, they're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just.
The-
I'm trying the strategy of looking the motherfucker into
what's
the
kind
eye.
of pretty safe is in the the lowest of stakes that you can play at a casino. Very, very rare. Few people are actually doing that kind of in-depth
Right.
studying.
It is kind of cool in the sense of the recreational, it is a mild cop out. It's like, oh, I lost. These guys are studying and I'm not.
Yeah.
Kind of take on it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Yeah, I asked the question because to me, what that represents was the transition from playing sport for fun to playing sport with a purpose. When we played intramural volleyball in high school, it was just fun, and those of us that were naturally good at it excelled. But when I got to college and I had the option to play club, it was very regimented. And you had to know exactly how to move from your position, and you had to be able to cover other positions. And, it was very strategic in nature. And you basically got fed the playbook similar to this simulation. It sucked all the fun out of it for me because I didn't take volleyball as seriously as baseball. Baseball, I had already accepted long ago that I wanted to play the highest at the highest competitive level. So, as a teenager, I'm a student of the game and I'm thinking about the strategies and the inner workings of pitcher-batter matchups and how to, basically pick up on tendencies. I used to try to steal signs from the dugout if I wasn't batting myself, whatever. And that was just a part of it to me, and it was a part of what I loved. But when I was transitioning from a game that I just played recreationally to playing it a little bit more seriously, sucked all the fun out of it. It was I just want to hit the ball. You know, I'm playing front row. Like, I just want to swing. You tell me, and they're like, no, there's a 2-ball, a 3-ball, and a 4-ball. I was like, buddy, fucking set me, and I'll react to it. It's like, no, you don't understand. That's not the way this goes. And I learned very quickly that that's not the way it goes. You know, it's like, if you're expecting a 4 and you get a 2, the ball hits you in the face. Like, you know, you're just way too late. And I'm curious of like if that resonates at all as somebody who like would play poker for fun for you, where it's just like, oh, this is too much, or is it more like piques the interest of like, holy shit, there's this whole world that's undiscovered to me?
Yeah, so I mean, it's super interesting, but like I look at it, I'm like, okay, so I need to take on another full-time job to actually to be a reg or a successful rec.
Right.
Right. I'm like, okay, so I gotta like set aside an hour a day, sit down.
It's motivational.
And again, these are
driven.
things that you could do with Lincoln, right? So if you wanna take his genius brain and turn it into a poker simulator, we could set up his summer camps. My brain is maybe a little bit too far gone for something like that.
Yeah, you really do got to be motivated to want to win and want to continue to win, want to put in enough volume where it's worth the hours off the table. You know, so like, there's a lot of people just like, I just want to go down. Hopefully, I get aces and flop a set and bust somebody.
Exactly.
Right?
For me, it's
that's fine
for
too.
For me, it's gambling. You know, and people always say like, oh, like,
of course,
you know,
of course, it's gambling.
Right.
Yeah, people forget that it is gambling.
But it's pure gambling. Like that's I'm looking at it not much different than a roulette table.
I was about to say it came pretty clear to me like as I was like started playing cash again a lot. Like I used to think of it as like this is so different than the pit. Right out there playing roulette or playing craps, and then I'm like, I watch people play, and I'm like, there's a lot of people who don't really see they walk into a casino and it's like, well, I could play blackjack, or I could play roulette, or I could play poker, or I could play slots. It's all the same to them, right? Which is also fine. It's just like, I'm here to gamble, and let's gamble it up.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you understand that there's more skill involved with poker, and that's why it's more enjoyable to play.
People like,
but you know, as
having a little bit of a control.
As Landon mentioned earlier, like I understand that like my skill level, and I know there's people like you out there who are sitting down at these, not so much as Rivers, but that like I understand that I'm gambling.
I'm sure there's some.
Do you take pleasure in just like finding those people and fucking them over? Because I think if I were lesser skilled, that would be where I would derive my joy.
Well, once I start fucking them over, I'll let you know.
Right.
You
But
know?
I mean, just like really doing it to him. Like,
no, because
like,
you don't
bad
fucking
beat
care.
them.
You know, if I get
true.
lucky or a bad beat or I outplay you or what the hell ever, you don't give a shit.
We don't care, but people care.
There's derivatives of regs. Like there's the misreg, where they're just miserable all the time, and every time you bad beat them, they're just like their life is ending.
Yeah,
and it's just like,
I've
buddy,
seen them.
Like you play every day. Don't like. How are you going to get upset about a bad beat? You're going to be on the other side of it tomorrow.
It was years ago, but like I was out at the casino and I had beaten a guy with like jacks and whatever, and then like we came into another hand and there was a drunk guy that sat down and I was like, in my feels, like I'm going to take on this drunk guy.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he was drunk at this point. It might have been playing. So like I ended up all in pre-flop with kings. He turns over aces, and the guy I had beat with jacks like, oh yeah, see, you're a fish, you're an idiot, like you can't, I'm like, I was all in pre-flop with king.
Yeah, what do you want me to do?
I'm pretty sure you're always supposed to fucking do that.
Yeah,
I didn't come down here I didn't come here to fold king's pre-flop.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that right now.
I love that attitude.
Yes.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Skimpy, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. We're happy that we could finally put a face to the name. Wait, before you roll that music, we have... thank you. We have a preview of the final episode of Poker Out Loud. Now, I know we spoke a lot about Squid Game today. Squid Game, progressive Squid Game. It's a nickname for the stand-up game, and season 10 featured the stand-up game. So if you're interested in hearing very intelligent people who play the stand-up game regularly, like Jeremiah Williams, like Nick Howard, myself, etc., discuss their strategy out loud, this is the only place that I know of that you can get stand-up strategy. So go ahead, roll that clip.
Okay, Nick chooses a very polar strategy, opening large. I think I'm just going to click on him.
This is a bit bizarre. Nick has a ton of incentive to continue facing a 3-bet. I would think that you would want to size up pretty chunky. You could also just be trying to get Nick to back raise.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Berkey meant to make it 225 all in.
All in.
All in.
Call.
Fucker. Chop it. Yeah.
Don't you dare.
Oh no.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia! Diamond. Yeah.
Did you? I mean, you misclicked, right? You meant
No,
to make
I'm ISOing the fish. I tried to make it dead minimum. I tried to make it less than the minimum. What are you talking about?
I thought you meant to make it 225.
No.
You don't think he has the min 3-bet in his locker?
He opened 7.5x. How big do I gotta go, man?
Mamma mia. Found
Mamma
that little
mia.
7 ball on the turn. All right, reminder, if you guys want to check that out, you can head over to solveforwhy.io. That is the final episode of Season 10. We're going to be rolling out on second thought a week from Monday. I'm going to be doing the first episode, basically just giving an overview for how I approach the stand-up game and what I think is the best strategy. Then Ewan McNicholas is going to take over the rest of the season. He's going to give you 10 solid episodes, basically breaking it down from his perspective as well as a solver's perspective as much as we possibly can. Stand-up game and 7 Deuce Bounty makes that a little difficult, but we'll do what we can. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back Monday, noon Pacific with the usual crew. Hopefully you guys all have a great weekend. We're going to go out and enjoy ours. We'll see you all then.
Peace.
Peace.